Hello and welcome to Console Shock episode 80, retro and modern gaming chat with me, Trev, and as always, Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Yeah, it's going well, Trev. Going well. It's going well. I'm living the dream. I'm living the next gen dream now.
Yeah, exactly. Some news that, I think you told me a couple of weeks ago now, but the first time we'll hear about it on the show. Ironically, after we've been moaning about the ability or non-ability to be able to buy a PS5 or a Xbox Series, you managed to bloody grab one for yourself.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, I was doing some website, and I'll check it every day just to see, where I had one, and it said, "Oh, Amazon got them." Oh, right, okay, right. Well, I wanted one on day one, so it's now March. It's now April, in fact, now. But so I grabbed it, and I'll be honest with you, I'm very pleased with it. But the point is, I think my point still stands, as I said before, is there was no real. Oh, okay, I want to play all the next gen games. There's none of that. It was
loving those exclusives, all those great exclusives.
Exactly. There's none of that, and I'm playing the same games that I was playing on my Xbox One X.
Game Pass going, yeah,
Colin McRae Dirt 5. Just playing that, and I'll be honest with you, it did look a little bit better. I think maybe I'm lying to myself. I don't know. And I downloaded the one exclusive game for the Series X, which is the Medium, which I'll be honest with you, I actually really, really enjoyed. I went all the way through that, and it was an absolutely smashing game. But not for a moment did I think, wow, this is next gen. This is the flagship title that really sort of blew my mind. But I did really enjoy the game.
What game is that then? 'Cause I've seen it being talked about, but I haven't actually tried to play it myself.
It's the whole thing behind it is it's only out on the Series X or Series S. It's you basically about 50% of the game you're almost sort of in two worlds at once. So there's a line down the middle of the screen, and you're controlling your character on the left in the real world, and then there's sort of like another alternative dimension. So the whole idea is what they said is that on the older generations they can't render both worlds at once. Which, okay, right, fair enough. If they can't do that, they can't do that. But I don't know. The graphics, it all looks very nice and things like that. But it's not really that punchy. Here's the new system seller game. But from that point of view, I thought it had a smashing story. I really liked the way it was sort of set in sort of Poland, and had lots of sort of old sort of Soviet influence in it, and I actually really enjoyed going through it, and it had a lot going on with it. So I would recommend it, but it's not a reason to buy it.
I've seen one thing that I'm really looking forward to. I think it might be like this week it's out. I pre-downloaded it, a Game Pass game. Very weird that this has come out on the Xbox, but MLB The Show 21, which is obviously the big baseball franchise that's traditionally kind of famous for being a PlayStation game. But they've actually they're releasing it for the Xbox. It's on Game Pass, which is great. I probably would have gone out and bought it, to be honest. I haven't played it for a long while. MLB The Show, like 14, I think was the last one that I played. Like spent literally hours and hours and hours on, probably like dozens of hours. Probably because I ended up playing more Xbox last generation than PlayStation, so I didn't keep getting the series. But I remember I got the one before that on the PS Vita, and that was great. And I think they kept making it on the PS3 until 16. I think that was the last one, but obviously it kept going on the PS4. But it's a really great just sports game generally. And it's been annoying. I like baseball games generally. I like baseball. It hasn't been available on Xbox, and there hasn't been a baseball Xbox game since MLB 2K13. Because the 2K guys, that make NBA 2K and now WWE 2K and PGA Tour, I think they do now, don't they?
I think they do, yeah.
Yeah, they've got like three 2K games, franchises. Yeah, they're now doing. They were doing they were doing a baseball game, but they stopped doing that in 2013. What was the last one? That was on the Xbox and the PS3. Quite a good game actually. Those 2K baseball games. I still play 2K12 on the PC.
Really?
Yeah, they 2K would make a PC version of those as well. So that was the last one that come out. To be honest, this might mean that they might eventually make the show on the PC, which would be amazing. But yeah, it's now on the Xbox, and the funny thing that people are kind of, it's become a bit of a joke because it's obviously made by the PlayStation Studio. So when you buy a boxed copy of the game on the Xbox, the PlayStation logo is on the box.
Really?
Version, yeah. Which is
what's the, because I know in obviously you got the situation now with Bethesda, and you know, in things like Minecraft, and Minecraft is on the PlayStation, and that's actually owned by Xbox or the Microsoft group, and the same with Bethesda software. That I can't believe that, and I don't know, maybe you can tell me more about this, but these actually are. The Bethesda games, are they all going to be exclusive to the Xbox consoles, or are they going to be? Well, actually, they're going to come out on the PlayStation as well. They might just come out a little bit later, or one will have better time DLC, or
I think at best it'll be that sort of thing. It'll be like it'll come out a few weeks early. Let's say the Elder Scrolls 6 is probably the big one. Let's say the Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, I think the chances are that might come out a few weeks before PS5, or the DLC might be exclusive for a year. I think I remember, like Oblivion. I think there was one or two DLCs like Knights of the Nine, or one of
Shivering Isles, wasn't it? The other
Shivering Isles, yeah. I think either one or two of them were exclusive to the Xbox for a little while, although the PS4. I don't think that really affected us because the PS3, sorry, not the 4. The PS3 came out 9 months later anyway. So I think then practically straight after that we got Oblivion on the PS3. That was actually a really good port. Going a bit off topic here, but it was a really good. I remember that being that was like the only good example of a sort of a 360 to PS3 port. It was actually better in some ways, better frame rates and textures, and not
really
so, but. If you go back onto I think probably DF Retro, not DF Retro, Digital Foundry. DF Retro is part of Digital Foundry, but Digital Foundry back in the day, like this before they went really nuts with their, analyzing of stuff in their sort of very early Eurogamer days. Well, they're still on Eurogamer, but in their very early days of working with them, they would do little comparisons that were far lower key than they are now. I think it's probably just Richard Leadbetter, like on his own. In those days would do these. He wouldn't have a big team like he does now. Well, not there's a big team. There's like 4 of them, isn't it, or something? I think. I think it was him on his own in those days. But yeah, there's a really good comparison. One of the good early examples of a cross-platform comparison of like real, like in detail, in depth. And you can see like they take different scenes from Oblivion on 360. And PS3, and you can see how good it is. I mean, these days you can just play Oblivion on it's on the Game Pass now because all the Bethesda games are. And
of course,
Oblivion particularly, they upscaled that to 4K and looks really good. The frame rate is a bit janky though. I tried playing it a few weeks ago.
Recently, I tried to play Skyrim after you advised me to play it. It actually sort of gave me maybe a little bit of motion sickness. I was like constantly looking up and down to pick up things, and I don't know. I maybe I'll go with 20 minutes, and I really didn't get on with it. And I thought, well, this is not something I want to sort of commit a lot of hours to. But talking about Game Pass, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago, Outriders came out on Game Pass on day one. It's on the PS4. PS5 and original Xbox as well, or Xbox One, and it's got a lot of hate, but I'm so enjoying it.
Oh yeah,
it's really good. And I thought, I'm going to look up the developers, and it's made by a studio, People Can Fly, and so I looked at, what have they done before? What has this studio done before? And they'd actually did the original Gears of War 1, Gears of War Judgment, and Bulletstorm, and they were the team behind Fortnite. So sort of obviously not including Fortnite, but 3 games I've really enjoyed, and in my mind, absolute classics, and has a really good sort of shooting dynamic. And talking about sort of Rich from Review Tech USA, he sort of slated it a little bit, and because I know there's lots of problems with it's you're meant to play it as sort of 3 of you going through the levels, and I'm kind of like, well, I've tried to do that, and you kind of not find a party, or you join at someone else when they're doing another bit of the story, and it all is very sort of story driven. So I think I might hit the online side of it, sort of actually once I've completed it, and then go back and sort of do the levels. But I've been, I don't know, I've been very impressed, and I've had no problems. And a lot of people saying, oh, there's bugs, there's problem with the matchmaking, you can't do the cross console. That's not quite working, but I don't know. I've just really enjoyed going through it.
It's I mean, it looks a bit like kind of elements of Destiny in a way, sort of like
exactly, yeah. So it's all going through and getting the loot, and then leveling up and getting more gear and swapping bits and putting things on this. But then it's got the sort of the shooting of Gears of War, and with lots of sort of cover shooting, and he's shooting aliens, and then the conversation is on sort of Gears of War, it's all very hyper macho, and they're just really like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna smash his head off, and it's just really well, I don't know, I'll call it very sort of alpha or very macho sort of, and it gives it a little bit of fun. Sort of to it, and it's all sort of ridiculous, and but I don't know, I like the concept behind it, and I'm enjoying it, so I'd recommend it to people.
Oh, cool. Well, I guess we're already talking about next gen stuff. Although there's one thing I would like to quickly mention. I've just literally seen there's like a Nintendo Indie World showcase going on like as we speak, and they've just announced House of the Dead remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a quick look at what they've actually shown. I mean, it's literally a remake of House of the Dead. They've redone the graphics. I think it's just the first game. They haven't really stated how you're going to control it though. Because I think
that's what I was about to say. Well, surely you haven't got the sensor bar. How are you going to?
Yeah, unless there's literally a light gun they're going to announce, which will somehow work. I mean, there have been light guns for HD consoles, like the PS3 got the Gun 3. But you had a little MacGuffin that you had to sort of hang on to the side of your telly, which is a bit finicky, and they've also got Move controllers as well. Because it'd be a bit naff if it was you use basically the joystick and just move a cursor around.
That'd be or tapping the screen or something. You'll have to have some sort of gun peripheral, otherwise it'll be a little bit sort of pointless, really. But
it could be a bit crap. Yeah. There's anything other than a gun, but hopefully maybe they have got something. So like that.
So I've always with sort of gun games, I've always loved the idea of them, but actually playing them, I don't find it very enjoyable at all. And I've sort of known people in the past that will go, oh yeah, I love going down to the arcade and I play all the way through House of the Dead, and I'll play all the way through, and I'm like, oh my god, I just can't be bothered. I don't know, am I crazy?
Oh yeah,
it's just not very enjoyable holding your arm up and get all tired. And
no, that's a disgusting attitude, Stu. Like light gun games are some of the most fun arcade games. I mean, for me personally, growing up in the seaside, there was a little wide arcades, and Virtua Cop was always like knocking around. Probably Time Crisis is probably the one most people would play. Remember, I had Time Crisis on PS1 with I didn't have the actual Namco light gun. I had like a third party one. That was quite good. I've still got it somewhere, like a Logic 3 or something one. I use that to play it, but it was great fun. Time Crisis. The PlayStation version was really good as well. Really interesting. You had to like sort of jack the light gun in on one side to the controller port of the PS1, and another bit went in, fed through the video cable at the back.
Yeah, something like that. You had to that work with the PS2 one as well.
Yeah.
It had some sort of weird sort of connector through the AAV socket. I can't quite remember how it was set up, but
kind of increase the accuracy or something, I think was the idea. But yeah,
what have you seen that? I think it was on RMC. That channel, there's this new gun that's come out, and it's almost got like a camera at the end of it. So
yes, I have. Yeah,
I can't quite remember the name of it. Anyway, so the whole idea is it's basically got a camera. So then on your PC, you play all of these games, and the sort of the camera actually acts as like a mouse. So, but it feels like it's got the recoil, and it feels like you're actually playing the games. Perfect sort of accuracy, and the screen doesn't have to flash, and all the things that it used to do. And of course, obviously, it'll work with HD TVs.
The Sinden light gun. Yeah,
that's it. The guy was working on it for years. Apparently, so I've heard about it quite a few times, and I believe it's now available, or if not, pretty close to being available. And I was actually sort of, wow, that's really good, because some people these days have got put their TV or the PC, into their TV. They can download all these games, and then actually playing Virtual Cop with a not a real gun, but it feels like the arcade gun.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a light gun that I spent a fair bit of money on. It cost about £80.
Oh, really?
Best one up until probably this one's just come out, called the Aim Track for the PC, and it's literally like it's basically identical to the Gun Con in terms of its look, and it literally works by you have a sensor bar like a Wii sensor bar, and it's just like a Wiimote really. You just assign it to sort of control the mouse, and in emulators and MAME and things like that, you typically the mouse cursor is used in light gun games to pretend to be the light gun. So you're effectively moving the mouse cursor around with the gun. Obviously, you can set it up so you don't see the mouse cursor. So it kind of effectively feels like you're using a real gun, light gun. But I always found it an utter pain to get it to work right. I can never get it. I mean, there's a lot of cables that are involved as well, which I know that's probably how they're all. But the drivers are a bit finicky. Getting it to be accurate is a bit finicky. You can never quite get it so it lines up with like the line of sight if you're aiming kind of down the barrel. So yeah, it kind of just annoyed me, and I gave up eventually. But,
well, I think this Sinden one is quite expensive, so I'd certainly suggest have a look into it and watch a few reviews on it. And I think they've all been sort of pretty positive about it, so I'll suggest looking into that.
I think it's I think there is a sensor that you have to sort of pop on your computer, isn't there? I think, or on your screen.
What it does is it makes like a white border around the edge of the screen.
You need some software running.
Yeah, exactly. So you need some software, and then you sort of calibrate it, and you can basically look down it and sort of see your face, and on the screen. So it's clearly sort of a camera, and because it's got this white border around the screen, I think that's how it works. It sort of knows exactly. It can tell from what's on the screen where you're shooting. So I'd recommend it. Not that I actually like that type of game, and I certainly wouldn't buy one. But that's only because, as I mentioned before, it's not my type of game. And
well, they can be a bit of a taste. They're quite limited in terms of the gameplay. They're just there for, just obviously you can get to the people play them right through to the end. I've done that, but it's no more than like an hour gameplay in a lot of these games.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's all more about getting a better score, isn't it? So
basically, yeah, it's all about the score. But Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's something. It would be great to get some of these games to make a comeback. If someone could come up with a really good light gun, and maybe this is the one that will do it. If you're happy to have a big white border around your screen, but if it works without any sensor bars or anything, and you just literally pop it into a USB port, then that could be the future, which would be great. So, yeah. Well, yeah, we were talking about next gen sort of consoles and I guess light guns now. That kind of brings us to what we wanted to cover today, which was it's a bit of a hot topic, and we both have quite strong opinions because obviously we do cover retro games as well as modern ones. But it's backwards compatibility. So attitudes have changed a lot at the various sort of companies that make consoles, and other people that are kind of the current set of people, which is basically just Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. They vary quite wildly in how they treat old games, and I think Sony especially is kind of been getting a lot of heat because of their attitude towards backwards compatibility, which has changed quite dramatically in, I would say, the last 15 years.
It's changed dramatically over the last 15 years.
Yeah,
I think that's quite funny. Completely flip-flopped in the last 15 years.
300. Well, I was going to say 360 degrees. Now that mean they'd be back to the way they were, 180 degrees. So
180, yeah.
They've literally gone from having, probably I would say with the PS3, the fat PS3, the greatest backwards compatibility console ever made. I think it's probably the only console that can do 3 generations in one. I can't think of anything else that does that.
I don't say the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, depends how you define.
Yeah, it's got the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, and then of course the Game Boy Advance. But I see your point.
I would say, like, when you're looking at real big, distinct generations, I think it's a good point with the Game Boy Advance. But then you could argue, okay, yeah, but the 3DS can do the DS and the DSi and DS. So there you go. There's 3 generations. It's like, well, yeah. DSi, I'm not sure, but yeah, I would say it's the best example. I mean, the Mega Drive could do the Master System, but you had to get an accessory to do it. The Super Nintendo couldn't do anything apart from the Game Boy, but you would need to get a MacGuffin for that. It wasn't really. I mean, some of the earlier consoles did do backwards compatibility. I mean, if we go way, way, way back, and like a big thing when the Atari 5200 came out. Again, this is before we were into games. We weren't even born in some cases, but a big thing about that was people were angry that it couldn't play the 2600 games, and then they fixed that with the 7800. But they went a bit too far by let's just use the 2600 sound as well. Who wants sound in their games? So the 1700 got kind of weirdly crippled by that. But you could play your old games on that as well as the 7800 games. And then there was after that you had I think you probably at that point you would have to go to the Mega Drive. Which would work with the ColecoVision and the Intellivision could work with Atari games, but you have to get a gadget to plug in, which is effectively a miniaturized version of the Atari 2600 that would plug in to the ColecoVision, to be able to actually play those games. So it was a little bit finicky, but yeah, you could kind of do it. Obviously, IBM computers, and they thing with within. Obviously, there are limits,
Well, that's it. I think there's always been a history of sort of backwards compatibility with sort of older systems, and again with computers. If you had an Amiga 1200, you could play 500 games pretty much. There are workarounds and things like that, and probably very similar with the Atari system. Of course, with the PC. If you know your way around a PC, you can get really old games to work on sort of next or current gen super PCs. If you want to play really old games, there's lots of ways to do that. And
1200, you could run get an Amiga 1200. You could do the whole 1985 to whenever the last year of commercial games, 96 or 97, can't you, with the 1200? So yeah,
well, yeah, exactly. And it was just the other day actually. I installed Game Pass on my PC, and I haven't really got a gaming PC. It's more for sort of, you know, browsing the internet and you know, doing the podcasts and, you know, bit of spreadsheets, you know, boring stuff. And but on the Game Pass, they have all the EA games, and they did sort of like a little video and you know, all the EA games. I was like, I can't play FIFA on my PC; it won't run. But I did watch, for some reason, I watched the video, and you can play SimCity 2000. So I was like, right, okay, I want to play that, and you know, click the button and installed it, and then press run. Popped DOSBox, and then 20 seconds later, I'm into the game, and I was like, wow, it's really easy to do.
Yeah. It's like running any native Windows 10 game, isn't it? DOSBox they've pre-configured it, so it'll just straight from a click, and it'll you don't have to install it or do anything.
Yeah, you know, the screen flashed in and out a little bit, and I didn't think it was quite seamless. But the point was, you know, you clicked it, you didn't have to do anything else. There was no configurating this. The sound worked. It was just, you know, a really good experience of sort of playing that game, and pretty much as well. I mean, I'm sure I looked a lot better when I was younger, but you know, I enjoyed playing it, and wasn't have a lot going on with it. But that was, I think, why I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's funny you should mention SimCity 2000. Although, actually, also with Game Pass. We keep talking about how good it is, but yeah, the great thing now is, you know, it was already available. It's been available for a good while now on PC as well. So you pay if you pay for Game Pass Ultimate, 11 quid a month, which is like peanuts, really. You've got Xbox games you can play on the Xbox, and you can just jump on your PC and you can play those games as well. And I think a lot of them have cross save. So if you're playing Forza Horizon, you're playing on you know, your Xbox, and you want to jump. Maybe you've got a PC connected up in your bedroom. You want to jump on in your bedroom and just play in there. You'll get your save or copy over, and you don't have to worry. Obviously, the Xbox controller just works with the PC. If you got the Bluetooth version of the Xbox controller, the slightly later Xbox One controller, it's just great, and it works brilliantly. And there's some games that are exclusive to the PC version of Game Pass as well. SimCity 2000 as well, like, is a good example. And you get those EA games now because they've sort of popped EA Play. The not the top tier, unfortunately, the premium one where you get the latest FIFA and stuff. But you've got that's still an EA Play, just the regular.
Well, I think they've got loads of stuff. It's great value, and I think Madden 21 is now on Game Pass.
Madden,
NHL 21 is maybe the last couple of days that's coming again. Both of them are neither really my type of game, but.
I mean, to be honest, you could just play FIFA 20, and like if you're not bothered about having the absolute latest,
100%, and that's it. But I think what I mean with PlayStation is, what are they doing wrong with the backwards compatibility? What is the interwebs just riled up about? And I think that's
because they used to be like the best example of backwards compatibility. At one point. I already mentioned that the PS3 is an absolute beast, when it comes to backwards compatibility. I mean, just the bog standard, I'm talking about a jailbroken one, but as long as you get a fat PS3 that's working, you can stick your PS1 discs and nearly every one will work. The one game that I can never get to work is International Superstar Soccer, but I'm a weirdo that likes that game, so don't get annoyed about that. Everything else works fine and looks, and you haven't got any issues having to get frame meisters or anything on your PS1, which is great. You've also got PS2 discs. You just pop those in; they look great. Again, PS2 could be a bit fiddly to get a decent quality picture because video quality is a bit janky out of a real PS2. You don't have to worry about that. It's coming out the HDMI of the PS3. You've got a good wireless controller with the PS3. It's identical to the PS1 and PS2 controller. So you've got that, and it's a really good experience. And you've got obviously PS3 games, so you've got all of that, which is great. And then even go into like the Vita, you've got like you could play PS1 games, you could play PSP games on it. Yeah, and obviously Vita games, you've got thousands of games on that. But then we sort of hit PS4, and they just completely cut off everything before PS.
I mean, I'm sort of be devil's advocate and say the other side of it, because let's say when the Super Nintendo came out, as you mentioned earlier, that couldn't play NES games. And I don't remember people, oh my God, I can't play my NES games on the Super Nintendo. Oh, that's terrible. And
it depends on the popularity of the previous generation a lot of the time.
But you buy the new consoles to play the latest games, and I've got arguments for the other side saying, well, actually they should do. They should play the older systems, and I think there's a certain other company that's sort of leading the way with sort of backwards compatibility. But with PlayStation, it's like, well, they come out with this PlayStation 5. The reviewers are saying it's absolutely amazing. It actually does backwards compatible with PS4 games. You just pop those in, and you can play them. And so that's a sort of a positive thing that they've done. But when you looked at the I'm thinking about the GameCube, that never had any backwards compatibility. The N64, there's lots of consoles that really didn't have sort of backwards compatibility element. And when Sony, I guess, are looking at their sort of balance sheets and going, well, we want people to play the next generation of games, and we've done our surveys, and what do people want? They want 60 frames a second, 4K. They want immersive games which look like real life. They've done all the surveys, and it's come back saying that's what they want. So I'm almost having an argument with myself here, but what are they doing wrong?
So I think it depends on you're right. I mean, it depends on the sort of person you are. I mean, I think Jim Ryan is getting a lot of the heat because he's very dismissive of backwards compatibility. I mean, he sort of said it's something that a lot of people ask for but don't use. But as someone that obviously keeps their old games and wants to be able to keep playing them, it's nice to have a new console that can play the old games. Just because sometimes you've got a new connection, a new TV that's going to output a better video quality. Which is obviously something we got instantly when the PS3 came out with the fat PS3. All of a sudden, our PS1 games and our PS2 games look brilliant on our HD TVs with just the standard cable that you plug that in with. We'd have to have a complete mishmash of adapters to be able to get those working on HD TVs now. So he just sort of said that, Jim Ryan, and then he also, I think an interesting one that what your opinion would be good on if you're sort of playing a bit more devil's advocate. He says I was at a Gran Turismo event recently when they had PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 games, and the PS1 and the PS2 games, they looked ancient. Like why would anybody play this? So what do you think about that?
These games have got nostalgia, and as a pure capitalist, which I am. And we discussed this before the show, and I'm thinking they should, there should be a team of people. The PS5 is a very powerful machine. Okay, it can with the right software, it can clearly play PS1, PS2, potentially sort of PS3 games as well. So if they have, basically an emulator within the PlayStation 5, and they have the store, and then you can buy, it's never going to be you can buy literally every game, and I think it's just going to be a huge sort of money spinner for them, because imagine if they're selling Crash Bandicoot 1, 2 and 3 for sort of $7.99 each. They're going to sell shitloads of those every day of the week, and absolutely no problem. They're not going to sell many copies of the Italian Job on the PS1. No one's going to get really super fond about that. But the point is, they're going to be they're going to actually sell like PS2 games, and people want to play like, oh man, I remember the old Devil May Cry, and if you're okay, I'm a video game collector, you're a video game collector. Now, if we wanted to play Devil May Cry, I'm looking at a PS2 in front of me here. You've got a PS2, you've got a PS3 that will play them. But the point is, if someone wants to play Devil May Cry 1, and they go, okay, I've got to get myself a PS2. Oh, it looks awful on this TV. I've got to get the right lead to get it into the TV. Oh, then I've got to get the game. And then, hold on. There's just a captive market there of people that would actually, they'll pay $4.99, $7.99, $9.99 to play, the Devil May Cry trilogy on the PS2, because they absolutely love those games, and they've been, sort of stretched out a little bit, and maybe a little bit of polish put on them. And I think that would be purely as a way to sort of make more money. And they would easily buy them, and I certainly would, because some PS2 games, certain ones cost 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds, hundreds of pounds, and the same with PS1 games. But obviously, if you sell them digitally, you can sell them for $4.99, $7.99, not a problem, and it actually gives you an opportunity to play them. And what the frustrating thing is, there are emulators, certainly for the PS1 on the PC, which are 99.9% perfect. PlayStation 2, probably a similar figure. PlayStation 3, I don't really know quite how good they are, but with the people at PlayStation, they could. I don't know. I think they'll just do very well out of it.
I think there's a little bit. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there was always a range of on the PS3, especially there was a range of PS1 classics, and there was PS2 classics as well. I mean, I think it was easy for them to start selling those because they'd already had backwards compatibility on a decent chunk of the PS3 consoles on a hardware level. Although later they had to sort of do a software PS2 emulator, which kind of killed a bit of the accuracy, but they still made games available to buy. The range was fairly crap, unfortunately. It was like Tekkens and Ridge Racers and Soul Calibur and stuff like that, but there were some really awful ones, like sort of like shovelware games as well. A huge amount with games. I think people were frustrated as well because I think that there wasn't because all the PlayStations are basically were disc-based consoles. That probably makes it less of a stretch for them to try and get them to emulate or to be accessible to the newer PlayStations. And obviously, a Switch isn't going to be able to have a NES emulator that you could plug the cartridges in. Because there's an actual clean break from that type of cartridge. Although you had like the Mega Drive, which could play Master System games, but it needed an adapter to do it. But it was still a cartridge system, so there was a way around it. Yeah, I think people were kind of hoping that maybe with the PS5 they could really go for it, and you could maybe get all 5 PlayStations in one place. Because I don't know how much of an effort it would be to make a PS1 emulator. Probably, not that difficult.
It's there, and I mean the fact is, if you look at the Xbox on the other side, now the Xbox I think has had to do backwards compatibility because halfway through the Xbox One's life, it was a distant third behind the Switch and behind the PS4, a distant third. And it was like, okay, right, what can we do? What can we do? Oh, anyone got any ideas? Yeah, backwards compatibility. Let's get 360 games. Let's get Xbox original games. Let's get those played. Oh, brilliant! And now we can advertise that. Oh, the Xbox One's got 2,000 or 5,000 games available for it, and they sell them sort of in the store. You go on there and you can buy Xbox 360 games. Just not a problem. It's just there. If you want to play them, you can buy them. You download them. You put the disc in. It automatically downloads. It's not every 360 game. It's not every Xbox One game or Xbox original game. But then I think they're they're actually doing it sort of right. And that the whole idea with the Xbox Series X, it will play the latest, next gen, current gen super games. And then the whole idea is that any game that says Xbox, it'll work. I don't think that's quite the reality, and not all of them do work.
It's far from perfect, as you say, but they're definitely light years ahead of what Sony are doing now. I mean, obviously, you can play PS4 games on the PS5, but with Xbox, you can go all the way back to the original Xbox. So you're talking now. That's 3 generations, effect, or 4 generations,
yeah, four generations. You're going back, and I don't think I've actually. Oh, maybe I played Panzer Dragoon Auto on the Xbox One, and I thought that was a great experience. That's a very good game.
Yeah, and you've got things like Morrowind, with the original Xbox version, and that even is, they've unlocked the frame rate on it, so it can go up to 60 frames. I think it'll probably stay at 60 frames on an Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Also on like a Series X, and it upscales it to 4K, so you're not just getting the vanilla version of it. They actually make an effort to tune it so it runs even better. And like I said, we mentioned like Oblivion and things like that, Bethesda games that come out on previous gen. But it's also the fact that you can just, if you have you can see the list of games that are backwards compatible. What original Xbox, what 360 games can play on the newer Xboxes. But you can get the disc and put the disc in. It run the game from the disc, but you basically unlock the game for you to be able to use it. Which is great, it would have been very easy for them just to say, no, you just got to double dip and buy it again, I'm afraid. But no, they let you play it. If you've got the disc, they'll let you play it, which I think is great, and another way that it should be approached. It's brilliant, and it looks like, with the fact that they, if in their eyes they can keep selling this stuff as well. When the new generation comes out, that doesn't mean we have to stop selling the 360. We can keep making money off these by making them work on the newer hardware. So yeah, there's money there to be had.
And another thing about the Xbox Series X, and I watch modern console gamer, modern video gamer. Yeah,
modern console gamer.
Modern video gamer.
Yeah.
Andreas, I think his name is. And he does cracking videos, and one of his videos he maybe had 3 or 4 months ago was the Xbox Series S is a brilliant PlayStation 1 machine. What do you mean? And then apparently you load it into developer mode. So I don't quite know how you do that, but I think it's very easy, and it's designed to. So basically, every console is a development console as well. So you may press a button in a certain way, and it'll boot into that. And then you can download RetroArch, and then you can play SNES games, NES games, Mega Drive games, PlayStation 1. I'm sure Dreamcast. So you can play all of these old games actually on it. So I just think, and the fact that that's not blocked out by Microsoft, they're actually I don't understand why they're not maybe sort of embracing that a little bit more and actually putting that on the proper side of sort of Xbox. So and I understand why there's reasons why they can't, but that'd be sort of amazing to be able to play on just turn on your Xbox and then be able to play PlayStation 1 games and so on. And Trevor, have you? You haven't got the Series S or X, but would you certainly try that when you get one?
It definitely appeals to me. I mean, I've got my PC, on my gaming PC. It's sort of half modern games that I want to play on it and half retro games, and it takes a lot of work to get RetroArch, to the level that you're covered for every console. You can't just do a big download and it's all there. Once you've got it set up, it is really good. And I've been tempted to think, I could just, get a cheap Xbox Series X, grab a big ass 4 terabyte hard drive that will work with it, dump all the ROMs on there for every console that I want, which is, however many that is, quite a lot. probably up to like maybe GameCube and Dreamcast, everything sorry to 2600 up to that kind of era. And and then I'd have that as like a dedicated RetroArch console, really, because chances are, if I wanted to, have the best next gen experience, you'd probably get an X. But with the S being like what, 250 quid, and it probably
exactly.
Yeah, that's nothing, and it'll perform better with those retro games than probably my PC now does. So I'll be able to pump GameCube resolution up to 1080p, and the frame rate will be super smooth, and I'll be able to max out all those settings and play GameCube games and have a better experience playing them on an Xbox Series X than I probably would on a GameCube. And it's also, if it's running off a console like the Series S, I'm sure probably the experience would be a little bit better because I haven't got to worry about the controller driver getting bugged or some background process in Windows is slowing something down, or Windows just having a hissy fit and crashing, or it wants to restart to download updates. Basically, all the things that a PC needs to do while you're playing a game. Have to do with any of that, and of course, you're spending 250 quid, to get that. Whereas a decent gaming PC is what you need to have a really good RetroArch experience. And I'm not saying you have to get the best graphics card. You don't at all, but you probably still want to pay a several hundred quid. If you just want to have a really good retro gaming PC. I know you can get you can get an analog NT, and you can get a Mister and all those things. But I think I'd always rather have a PC because there's more variety of ways to play. There's more emulators. Those emulators often have more features because they tend to be developed on the PC first and then get ported over to other things. You can use whatever controller you want, and that's probably that's what I'm tempted to do, is just to get a big hard drive and a Series X and just set up a Series S.
Yeah, I think it's certainly sort of a way to go. And I mean, I think the Series S's are pretty much available sort of pretty much all the time from one place or another. But one thing that was you sort of touched upon earlier was the guy from Sony. What he said was, well, actually, people talk about wanting backwards compatibility, but then do they really want it? And I remember there was
they never used it. Is kind of what they're saying. Yeah, they never use it.
Yeah, you'll never actually use it, or people want it, but then so they'll give it to people, and then it's not actually used. And what I remember, I don't know how true this fact is. So someone might sort of disagree with me. Please feel free to put that into the comments. But when the backwards compatibility games came to the Xbox One for the 360, it was like everyone was cheering. Oh, it was amazing! Blah blah blah. Oh wow, it's the best thing ever. And then someone released some sort of data that showed that at any one time, sort of 0.8% of the people or 1.2% of the people playing the Xbox One were playing a backwards compatible game.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, that's low.
Have you done it yourself?
I've on the Xbox One, I've certainly played a lot of backwards compatible games. I've played them. I've downloaded them. They're usually on the sort of games with gold each month. Or sometimes I want to play that old game. So, I certainly have. But I'd probably say in the last year, 90% of my game has been the current gen, and then 10% has been, maybe playing. I did lots of the old Call of Duties and things like that when I was off early, in the middle of last year. But the point is that in reality, I don't think the figures are there for people to, why don't they let us play PlayStation 1 game? Why don't they do this? And they there's obviously sort of rationale behind it. And
yeah, I mean, for me, my experience, I remember with the PS3, I keep harping on about it, but it's just a beast when it comes to backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
I used that loads for old games, and I had a huge stack of PS1 games when I got it. When I got the PS1, I really enjoyed playing PS3, those on PS3, because it was just a better experience than using my PS1. The controller, I said wireless controller, and I would be able to play on a big screen HDTV like really easily. I didn't have to worry about buying loads of memory cards. They're all just built. You store them as files on the hard drive on the PS3. It was just a better experience, and the same with PS2 game. I didn't have a PS2 when it was, in the PS2's heyday. I had Xbox and GameCube. So it was my first experience of playing PS2 games was on the PS3. I remember when I got my PS3, I was like, oh, great, I can play this game now and that game. And I played around my mates, who had a PS2. I'll go and grab those. And, I went and grabbed them, and I played, like, in the first few months, it was like, I would say I played like 70% of the games I played on it were previous gen games. It wasn't until, like, you got to 2008, 9, 10, when you got like your Uncharted's and your Grand Theft Autos. And, I think most months I would play some kind of previous gen PlayStation console game on the PS3. But obviously, we're probably a bit unusual because we're.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Is Trev and myself is I love playing a game and then going, where did this game begin? Where was the original Gears of War? Where was the sort of original Call of Duty? Let's see how much they've changed. And that's something I really enjoy doing. And whether or not it's actually playing them or going back and watching reviews on Classic Game Room of games that came out sort of 10 years ago, like the first version, when I'm playing like a third or fourth one and really enjoying it and going, actually, I want to go back and sort of play them. There's a lot of sort of joy in that, to be honest, and seeing where things came from and the history behind it. But I think we are quite unusual with sort of wanting to play sort of the older games, and
it didn't always translate, though. I mean, I had a caveat to that with later consoles. I mean, my Xbox 360, I do play a lot of original Xbox games on that because it's a really nice experience compared to an original Xbox.
It's got a better controller.
Yeah, better controller that's wireless. Although some of the buttons have to map to different places, so that could be a little, because obviously they didn't have the black and white button. I think they're like RB and LB, which works out okay in most games, because the things that they were used for on like a dual shock controller end up being mapped to those black and white buttons. So I do that a fair bit with either. I bought a few of those original Xbox games that you could buy. Playing on the 360, and I've got a decent sized, quite a big original Xbox collection, and most of those games work. I remember really annoyed that you couldn't, that Metal Gear Solid 2 doesn't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's one of the ones. If you jailbreak an Xbox 360, you can actually unlock that because it was white. It was blacklisted. Well, there's a white list of games that will work, and apparently it works perfectly fine. They just didn't want to have it work for some reason. But most games that I like work, like all the Grand Theft Autos, that came out. I played like The Simpsons Hit and Run on the original Xbox game on a 360, and it looks great. It scales the Xbox games to 720p, so they look brilliant. Unfortunately, you can't play Xbox Live on them anymore. I think you used to be able to, though. When the original Xbox service was still going. Although I guess it's back now because you can play like Crimson Skies like online, I think. Can't you?
You can't play that online. All you can do is I watched a video from
it's couch multiplayer, like split screen.
Yeah, you do couch multiplayer, and I think the whole thing is what they were trying to test out was having an original Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, all plugged into one router, and then you could do like a system link and all play each other on different generation machines. And that's a sort of a great example. And obviously, I understand. Obviously, one thing I just remembered I want to mention, but that's a sort of great example of, okay, let's not switch these things off. And I understand, and it always makes me laugh when they switch off an online service for a game, and everyone's, oh, that's terrible. And there's probably some fella sitting monitoring the server for a game that's just been switched off, and they're like, there's literally no one playing this game, and
Yeah,
we're switching it off, and now we're the bad
yeah,
guys.
it's kind of a
It
fun one.
makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if there's no one playing it, I guess it just, what do you expect? But at the same time, I'm like, I remember I was chatting to someone about it, and they were like, "Yeah, but this is gonna they have to turn this stuff off. It's going to cost them a lot of money to run it. It's a big room with loads of servers in, that are for the old games." I'm like, no, it's probably nothing like that. The like original Xbox sort of environment, Xbox Live environment, probably ran in like a virtual machine on one of these sort of servers that ran the 360 Xbox Live. There was like a virtual machine of Windows.
I'm sure there is some sort of cost of having the game running online, and
it wouldn't be free for sure. Yeah.
There must be some sort of cost. But then that brings me on sort of another point, which PlayStation are obviously sort of pissing people off with, and it's the closing down of the PSP, the PS Vita, and the PlayStation 3 store. And Metal Jesus did a video, I think last week or the week before, when they announced it, was like saying, here are 10 hidden gems that you should buy off the PlayStation 3 store, and that you can't get anywhere else.
Hold your horses. Metal Jesus did a hidden gem video.
Yeah, no, he does them a lot.
That's unlike him.
He really does them a lot. Talking about Metal Jesus, I've there was this guy, he kept popping up on my Facebook, and he was just like, I've done a video calling out Metal Jesus, and he's absolutely terrible, and and this video of him just he was just slating Metal Jesus for. And I was just watching it going, man, you just look like such a loser here. Honestly, he's not. What's his name? Jake Paul. Let's call out Jake Paul.
The most offensive YouTuber ever. He's just super chilled out. It's like your mate. It's just. I
don't quite probably agree with every hidden gem he says, and sometimes I think someone who calls themselves Jesus isn't probably
games by talking about old games that no one knows about. Is raising the price of them on eBay.
Exactly. But anyway, he did a video about the hidden gem, not the hidden gems, or the games you should download before they turn off the PlayStation 3 store.
Yeah.
And that was quite useful. But it goes back to my point again, that a lot of these games are if you want to watch a film that came out 20 years ago, Dancing with Wolves, you can go to Amazon, you can buy the DVD, and you can get it home and it'll play on anything, your PC, your DVD player, anything.
I'm with Jim Ryan. Why would you want to watch old films? They look terrible. You need to watch some up-to-date Michael Bay stuff, blowing up stuff, not Casablanca.
Well, exactly. But in reality, people want to play these older games. It's not always about sort of the next gen super games and that we all love playing. I talked about at the beginning, Outriders. I'm really enjoying it. It's an online loot co-op shooter. If that doesn't do well, in 2 years' time, a year and a half time, they'll switch it all off, and I'll never be able to have that experience again. Yeah. Okay, that's the reality of it. I'm having the experience now, and then obviously with an online game, I appreciate that. But it's sort of frustrating where games like sort of Outrun, or there are plenty of games that are solely on the PlayStation Store that never came out on disc. Yes. So you literally can't play them, and so there's a bit of history that it's gone.
Yeah, and there's no backwards compatibility. So the PS4 can't play those old PSN network games anyway. They never came across. Where on the Xbox side they're a bit better because a lot of those Xbox Live Arcade games have carried over. You can play them on Xbox One with the backwards compatibility, which is
when I set up my Xbox, it was like, how many games do I actually own? It was like about 90,
Yeah,
like 70 or 80, 90 games, and there were games that I bought like 10 years ago. Oh, be a click if you want to download this, click if you want to download that, and that's like, I thought, wow, that's brilliant. I can play these old games, and in all honesty, I didn't download any of them in reality, but
But you could play them now on the Xbox One, but with the like one that I bought yonks ago that I played a little bit on the Xbox One recently was Sensible World of Soccer.
So I've got that, yeah.
Yeah, but now I can stream that. I could stream it from the Xbox. I can record clips and do all the stuff that you do on an Xbox One game. Has now been layered on top of that 360 game, so it's a better experience now than it was before.
But that's it. It just goes back to what I was saying before. Is that I just think PlayStation are missing a trick, because I don't know how much it costs to have the sort of the PSP servers up there, so you can download the games. And I think you have to plug it into your PC, download software to then go to some sort of store to copy them over or something. So there's a little bit of a hassle to do. But with the Vita, okay, the Vita's not a great seller, but people still buy stuff for it. But I think the real hard thing to sort of swallow is I'm switching off the PlayStation 3 store, which basically sold like 90 million. You'll probably correct me on that, 90 million units. And imagine if they, all the Vita games, the PS1 games, the PSP games, the PS2, PS1, everything was available on the PlayStation 5. They had all these emulators, and then you could play them. I'd be, oh wow, that's a really good service, and that's just sort of something that commercially I think they're really sort of missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, they've got quite a rich history with gaming, PlayStation. I mean, I don't think Nintendo, I mean, we've kind of not really talked about Nintendo much, but they're not great either. I mean, you get like a handful of games for like NES and SNES if you sign up to the online.
That's true, yeah.
Nothing compared to what they achieved with the Wii, where they literally have hundreds of old games. If you had anything like that on the Switch, it would be amazing, but they just abandoned that with the original Wii. They kind of did a little bit on the Wii U, but they kind of gave up a little bit with just a few handfuls of games. But yeah, I mean, if the Switch had, dozens of NES games, dozens of Super Nintendo, dozens of N64, GameCube, maybe even, I understand there's big emulation issues with GameCube and, particularly and obviously Wii as well, but and N64, it's a difficult console, but, they managed to get Mario Sunshine and Mario 64 running to a good level in the recent 3D All-Stars. So they've got an even better history. They're the only ones in the game right now that go all the way back to the 8-bit era. Sony.
Nintendo, I actually sort of give them credit, and I understand why they can't have all their old games on the current gen system. For one, they don't own the rights to them, but secondly, they can't. I think they do a good job with the NES, with the online service. You can play the games there, and I would like to see more of them available. And I think there's a difference between some of these NES games are quite old, and I'd like to see.
What are you trying to say? Shut up about the NES, all right?
Yeah, shut up about the NES. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, there are. I mean, a big argument. Oh, you probably get into this anyway, but some of the games are very, very hard and a bit obtuse. But now you've got quality of life, quote unquote, sort of things that are added in, like rewind and and save states. You can kind of cheese your way through a game and experience it all the way to the end in a way that you couldn't originally. I mean, it's like a little kid would probably want to play a NES game, or even someone in their 20s now who would have been born, in PS2 would have been their NES, even someone that would be in their late teens was born when the 360 came out, what appeal. But then I guess you could say the same argument with really old films, no one wants to watch them now. Let's just not bother releasing them.
I mean, I don't know. I'll disagree with that about films, and we don't really talk much about films on here, but from my point of view is I like to, how do you put it? With the older games, and it was just the other day I picked up my Switch, and I actually picked it up in about a few months. I'm looking forward to Mario Golf on there that's coming out, I think in June. I'm going to pick that up. But for the Switch, I was playing the Castlevania collection, and I think I got on the first one. I got through to the first boss, and I don't know. I died and died again, and I was just, hold on, I'm just not good at this, and
it's a hard game.
it's a rock hard game, and it's so maybe your hand's held through these newer games now, and you can put the level down, and your life regenerates if you hide behind a tree or whatever, and so things are a little bit easier now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, something like a shmup like Konami, talking about Konami collections, is there's the shooter collection where you've got like Gradius. I mean, that just you get yourself powered up, so you've got all like auxiliary laser cannons firing, and you've got all the missile upgrades. But if you die halfway through a level, you'll often start maybe a tiny bit further back with just a pea shooter, and you literally just have to. You're as good as dead. You might as well just restart the game. It's a little bit better now because with those collections, you can maybe just get yourself a save point at the beginning of the level. So maybe go to the beginning of the level and just get your power ups back, and hopefully get past that awkward bit that you were dying at. Or you've got the rewind, if it's something that's on the NES online, or if you're using RetroArch, just rewind on that. So you can cheese your way through it, and that might take some of the pain away. But obviously, some people right now will probably be frothing at the mouth and say you need to play it the original way, otherwise you've ruined it, and it's more fun if you get die all the time.
I think, what was it? There was a big sort of debate we talked about maybe 40 odd episodes ago where Mike Matai said, well, you haven't completed a game if you've used save states, and and it was like, well, you have completed it, but you've used save states. Yeah. And you've used extra lives cheats, but there is a difference between, I certainly have more respect for someone who completed Castlevania on the original NES, without losing a life. Good for them. Bloody hell, that's a tough game. And compared to sort of someone that's gone, okay, right, I get so stuck on that. Let me get just before that big boss, and I'll save it, and then I'll. I can keep on trying, and then I'll get past it. And
I think what he was taught, what he really should have said, and maybe what he was trying to say, but he can't say it right, was you haven't experienced it in its original form, the way it was kind of quote unquote intended to be. It's an argument you could say, well, I've seen, I saw original Star Wars. I watched it on video loads. It's like, no, you haven't seen it until you've been to a cinema and watched it. It's kind of like that because you have seen it. You know what the story is. You've watched the story, but the best way.
But I think with watching a film it's more like it's more like a one-way thing. You sit there for 2 hours, and then someone tells a story in front of you. So, I mean, okay, I imagine watching Star Wars is much better in 1978 in a cinema, where it's all smoky and, sticky floor and stuff like that. Great. I mean, you watched it there. Brilliant. I'd much rather watch it at home.
That's what it's like now in the cinema, sticky floor and smoking and, people producing smells, not smoke necessarily, but
exactly. But with the game, you need, and there was always like who's that? O'Brien, Darren O'Brien, Dara O'Brien. O'Brien, yeah, the Irish fella, very, very, very funny, and he did this whole sort of skit about how he loves playing video games. He's really into his video games, but what he's frustrated is that the video games, and he's getting older, get halfway through the video game and get stuck, so he can't get any further through it. And then it's like, well, it's not like a book, is it? You don't get through a book and you get stuck, and you just turn the page, and you read the next chapter, and you're really engaged in it. But with the game, what he's finding now is he's getting older. The game's getting maybe a little bit tougher, or maybe his reactions are slowing down a little bit, and he can't. He's been promised everything on the back of the box, and I think he talked about Guitar Hero. He's been promised like 90 songs, but because he's so bloody bad at it, he can only actually get 12 of the songs unlocked.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, I'll pay for this for 90 songs, but because I'm so shit at it, I've only got access to 12 songs. Or that was what it was a sort of joke. I'll recommend looking it up. He does a better job of telling it.
Yeah, I know which one you mean, and I think he was sort of saying he's justified in bumping down the difficulty to easy because it means he gets to get his money's worth effectively.
Exactly.
And you know what he needs? He needs to play more third-person adventure games. You know, you go up a corridor, shoot a bunch of guys. If you get killed, you just pop back a couple of footsteps back, do it again. Yeah. Uncharted, Gears of War, Tomb Raider, just one of them. He'll love it. He will put on easy as well.
Exactly. I don't know. I feel like I'm playing more games on easy now.
Yeah, me too. You know, I admit that I do it. Sometimes you just want to be able to power through just to see what it's like, and I don't feel I've cheated myself. I don't feel I've enjoyed it less. In some ways, maybe I've enjoyed it more because the bits that I might have spent weeks on, I was able to get through and have fun doing it. You know, so
yeah, exactly. I do feel I'm playing what's it called, Dirt 5, and I just win every race, and then I've tried putting it up to the next level, and I can't win anything.
Yeah,
there should be a level. There should be another little level between the two levels.
You've just finished work. You've plonked yourself in front of the sofa. You don't want to be angry for 2 hours, do you?
No, exactly. You don't want to. Oh, I can't progress unless I can.
Yeah.
You know, get every.
You're not a 12-year-old.
Perfect, and yeah.
Yeah, we're not 12 anymore. We can't sit in front of the telly from 9 a.m. till midnight playing the one section of Castlevania that we can't get past, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be nice if we could do that. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But we have come to the end of today's. So hopefully we're not too angry about everyone screwing up backwards compatibility. So hopefully we'll be able to enjoy the rest of our evening. We'll get the PS3 out, stick some PS2 and 1 games in, and you'll feel that cuddly bosom of backwards compatibility. We're never going to get.
Do you know what? I love a cuddly bosom.
Who doesn't? The PS.
Who doesn't? I love a cuddly bosom.
I wouldn't cuddle it. It's very heavy and it's pretty hot as well. So you might yellow light it if you do that. But anyway, where can you find us, Stu?
Right, we're all over the internet. So basically, search Console Shock. But we've got a website called consoleshock.net. That's where sort of the podcasts go up. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. You can find us on there under Console Shock. And then you can also find us under Twitter, Console Shock, YouTube, and Facebook under Console Shock again. So you've managed to get everything.
We're on all the senior interwebs, all of the interweb.
TikTok. We need to go on TikTok. TikTok, Tim. TikTok,
an instant grammar, I believe it's
instant
called.
Grammar.
Grammar. And ticking tocking, yeah. We didn't need to get the kids
dancing.
The kids are dancing. Yeah. I think they're talking about, you know, old NES Castlevania really resonate with a platform that's mostly used by 15-year-old Chinese kids. So let's do it. We've got to do that.
Yeah.
For me, I've plugged it a few times already, but I think I'm allowed another couple of episodes worth of doing it. But I've got another podcast.
The Star Wars podcast you do. Tell the audience about the Star Wars.
Battle Trek Galacta Wars.
Wars.
Battle Trek.
Go on, Trev. I won't interrupt.
Base 9. So yeah, I've got another podcast going on at the moment with a good friend of mine, Al, who was on the show a few episodes ago, actually on Console Shock. But we're doing a podcast together about Star Trek. It's called Long Range Sensors. Basically, just go to longrangesensors.net and it's right there. We've got a Patreon if for some reason you would like to give us some money for it, which we would greatly appreciate. But yeah, we've got recording a new episode tomorrow. We just had an episode 5, so we're getting through them somehow. Went live at the end of last week. So yeah, check it out if you're into Star Trek. otherwise, that's everything from me and Stu for today. So thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy. Bye bye.